seconds left. They need a miracle, Melbourne. Port Adelaide are going to hold on. And they're back in town in the AFLW. They bring Melbourne's undefeated run to an end. And in the first meeting between these two sides in the competition, it's a classic, the power by two.
Alrighty, hello, welcome to the CREEDCAST. It is Tuesday the 16th of September, late in the evening, and we're here to review a win that I'm not sure, I think we were hoping could be possible if Port put their best foot forward, but I think going into the game with our squad show last week and even when we briefly touched on the main show, we were a little bit trepidatious dependent on what kind of Port Adelaide and what kind of DNA they showed up with on the day with what we'd seen so far this season, but it was a game to remember and kind of bolted us right back into the mix for finals contention with your Port Adelaide Footy Club gritting it out 6-7-43 to 5-11-41. A fast finishing Melbourne, but not quite enough to get over the line. And a nice, famous little win again in front of a 2,700 strong crowd down in Adelaide, and a good little crowd there on a Saturday afternoon in some decent bloody weather that it was. I was not there, but Jamie, you were there. Good evening. Just tell us about how the vibes were down there and what kind of day it was.
Hello, everyone, and aren't we having a sensational weekend and a bit? Schadenfreude is in full swing, and our girls got the job done. Like you said, Alberton was a peach of a location on Saturday afternoon. It was a fantastic day. It was a good crowd. There was actually a good contingent of Melbourne supporters there, just to add a bit of extra flair to extra dynamic to the crowd attendance. But it was a great day. On any other day, maybe with the influence of Dave, I could have been well into my work. I'll put it that way, with a drink in hand. But no, it was sensational. And like you said, we were trepidatious, but we knew that if we went back to our DNA, we've used that phrase and topic a lot in the last few episodes, review and preview considered. And we knew that if that was put in place, we have the talent, and Melbourne a bit of an unknown with who they'd played, and the fact that, we hadn't played them in the AFLW proper before. So excellent day out, excellent afternoon, excellent effort by our girls, and we got away with a win. Perhaps it ended up closer than it should have, but maybe that's flattering to Melbourne, and maybe it doesn't tell the whole story.
Mm. Yeah, it's such a fascinating game to watch back. I obviously covering for some illnesses at work and the family business, so I'm a bit more preoccupied with, well, not preoccupied with that, just helping out as any way I can with that at the moment. So I didn't get to watch most of it live. I was hoping to, but ended up staying at work a little bit later, and I caught the last quarter live just because it got a bit quieter, and I was able to just jump on the laptop and just watch it and sit there. Real tense times in those, particularly in those last few minutes, which I think Melbourne were quite lucky to get that free kick there in the last minute and a half. Or that Sinead Goody, very, very good tackle that went unrewarded. Well, went unrewarded to Melbourne. But a fascinating one to watch back, as I was keeping an eye on the scores as I was working on Saturday afternoon, and kind of just seeing the way the stats and how the game was being reported via text into the AFL app. And it was like, Melbourne are on top of this department. But Port Elite, Port are just converting their inside 50 entries better. And I was just like, okay, so maybe Melbourne are mostly on top. But watching the game back, like much of the first quarter, I thought felt pretty good about how we played. Much of the second quarter felt pretty good about how we played. And much of the third quarter, it was really only the fourth quarter that I felt like Melbourne truly got on top. And you mentioned it, I'd be interested to know how it looked on at the ground, but Melbourne's handball game throughout the game was better. But other than that, our pressure told, and that DNA that you were talking about really told.
Yeah, absolutely. And somewhat prophetic on my behalf, if I'm going to just toot my own horn. I remember sending you a message in the third quarter, or at the end of the third quarter, basically saying that we started the second half really well off the back of a challenging first half, but I had a feeling that we might fade. And to Melbourne's benefit, they were kicking with the wind in the last quarter, and I think we did get a bit tired, to be honest. So their handball game being consistent across the four quarters really came into it in that last quarter, and they had no other option but to go hammer and tongs to try and get the win. They'd kicked 2 goals to three-quarter time. So it would have taken a big effort for them to get over the line. Uh, so with all those combined, they are Captain Planet, and they pushed us right to the end. Lucky to get that free kick at the end. It would have, I think, a margin of 9 or 10 points probably would have reflected the contest a bit better. And in saying that, we had one really genuine chance at the start of the fourth quarter, and then there was another repeat entry that could have easily been converted to a score at the start of the fourth quarter, where we could have put that extra cushioning on and just turn that light at the end of the tunnel into a freight train a little bit for Melbourne. But we didn't convert, unluckily. And as I said, Melbourne kicking with the wind, being a professional outfit with a few stars, and they relied heavily on their stars throughout the four quarters to keep them chugging along, with Kate Hoare and Tyler Hanks in particular. But we just had to stick fat. Our pressure didn't die. We were obviously setting up well to support our backs, knowing that their handball and running game was going to challenge us, and it did. It is a watch going forward, because we've seen. Look, I think out of the teams that we've played so far, Melbourne's run and carry game is probably the best, but we have been undone by the likes of Fremantle. I think North Melbourne, we shot ourselves in the foot mostly by turnover.
Yeah.
So they didn't really have to. They cut us up, but it was in a different manner. But so Melbourne, being that way, it is a watch for other teams that we come up against. Just if they're a run and carry type side, it will challenge us. If we stick to our DNA and we keep the ball carrier under pressure, or the target as well, it'll hold us in good stead. And to round that off, that's how it ended on Saturday.
Yeah. It is something that I was really, I'm glad you kind of brought it up, because it's something that watching this game more than ever, I was just like, this is probably going to be where our ceiling comes to this year, is just the fact that we're still not mature enough as a side. I mean, well, mentally, but just, there is just part of growing as you grow as a player, as you get more experience as a player. Players in a lot of different sports talk about the game slowing down for you, and we've just got a lot of young ladies playing for Port Adelaide that the game is still a little bit faster than once they're fully developed into AFL players. A lot of them are playing good football already, but that's where you see these more experienced sides. Their handball, their overlap run, all those different aspects you were talking about are just a little bit more innate to them as a side. And we just still don't have that. You can still see there's a little bit of like looking for a bit more time on the ball than they've got. A little bit like Florian Wirtz at Liverpool at the moment. He's going to come good, but he's just trying to figure out the pace of a new league. Always going to get the Liverpool in there. And you can just see that a little bit, and just like when you see these teams that have a good handball game going, and then we try, there's a little bit of like, we just don't execute the handballs well as well. That's part of it. And our turnover numbers in this game, we still turn the ball over 8 more times than Melbourne did. Interestingly though, despite we still did transition the ball better. Just looking at the stats are correct. It says we've got 38 rebound 50s to Melbourne's 24. So, our transition was okay. We just had to do it our way, and thankfully, because our pressure, and we were able to bring Melbourne's turnover game into it a little bit, even though we did still turn it over more. Our pressure on them, on the ball carrier, while they were getting some incredible handball chains together and getting handballs out of immense pressure that we were putting on, we still put on enough pressure that they couldn't get it going freely and get enough score going. Because some of the, again, watching the stats and watching how the game was being presented in text form on the AFL app versus what I saw, I was really impressed with how, while we didn't have nearly as many inside 50s or anything like that in the game, just the way that we it's I guess it's the inside 30 thing you're talking about. Like a few of the like Melbourne's inside 50s, particularly earlier in the game. I know later as the game wore on, they got a few more good ones, but we just defended like their ball was coming in a little bit more shallow, and we were able to get it out, and we were able to just bring it to contest, and they didn't get that many easy opportunities up until maybe that as the game wore on.
Yeah, I agree. I feel that due to our pressure, and even though Melbourne were able to triangulate with their handballing to create those chains, I feel that pressure to make them flick it around, say at a half-back flank, Melbourne's half-back flank, that is. I feel that held our half-backers in good stead to support when the ball did eventually come in, side 50, that is. So when we had a situation where, say, an Emily Borg was one-on-one with her direct defender, the pressure up the ground, and something that we would have loved a bit more of in the men's season as well on a lot of occasions. But so Melbourne were able to develop their handball chains, but we still made them work enough to provide enough time for our halfbackers and pockets to either intercept, get a third man up, spoil type situation, or really outnumber at the drop of the ball inside Melbourne's forward 50. And I think, that's what you're saying. We had more rebound 50s because they were kicking it inside 50 under pressure, or we were able to outnumber at contests in defensive 50. Whereas because we were converting, they didn't have the opportunity to rebound it as much. We didn't get it in as much as them. So the rebound 50s kind of makes sense in that regard. And that game is displayed a lot of positive traits that held us in good stead last year. It was the pressure, tackling, but then the conversion inside 50, which came off the back of that. It was harkening back to what we enjoyed a lot of, and I'm really glad that they did it against a noteworthy opponent in Melbourne. Like I said, relied predominantly on Kate Hoare, Tyler Hanks, and obviously the first time I actually got to see some of these people play, Taylor Harris, icon of the AFLW, and first time seeing her play, I actually really enjoyed her game from a football fan point of view. She's copped a lot of shit over the time, but just taking my port hat off for a second, I thought she performed well, and obviously their two big guns are hard to deal with for the whole game, but it seemed that they were the only ones who were really going to get Melbourne over the line, and to be fair, they nearly did. But I felt that our contribution was more spread. We had the guns who contributed over a longer period of time, but we also had those handy cameos from time to time, or players that had good halves, and just contributed when they needed to. And again, I think that's what holds us in good stead. It's when we can bring as many players into the contest as possible, and as many players impacting in the pressure game. And they interviewed Ash Woodland, Indy Tahoe at the breaks, and it was basically it was one of the main things that they mentioned in their brief chats. There was the pressure factor number that they were keeping an eye on, and it's no surprise why. You mentioned the handballs as on our end, and it is definitely an opportunity for improvement, because, like we said in the preview show, we don't expect our team to just flick a switch and just generate 60 more possessions, pull it out of thin air. But handballing is definitely not something where, across the board, we're quite proficient in, because there was some that left a lot to be desired. So while we don't expect them to pull 60 extra possessions out of their rears, I think a clinic on handball execution would be helpful moving forward. But it is good to know that we have opportunities for improvement while still being able to pull off a win such as this at home. It's the most pleasing thing about it.
Yeah. If you can win sticking to the core values of what have made you a decent side, what we think we believe we're a preliminary final side last year, so we're a decent side now. You stick to those core values, which is, really what Lauren Arnell was, and I'll use this term. I think she was bristling with frustration at what she saw against West Coast, because she understands, she's been quite, we've understood the project as being a growth thing for the last few years, but I think now she's at the point where she's like, there's certain things that are intrinsic and kind of, well, it's DNA stuff. So when you don't see that executed, so to see us bounce back and lock down on that stuff, and the disposal number kind of ended up more or less the discrepancy we've been seeing. We had 2 more kicks, but we had 65 less handballs. Oh, sorry, 7. Like, am I reading these numbers? 75 less, I think, actually. So, yeah. So
yes, you are correct.
That's pretty much that, and we've talked about that for weeks now. It's like the kicks is actually pretty similar. It's just how teams are unlocking us at times when we're getting behind it is the fact that they can flick a few handballs or out, and then get a quality kick forward rather than our kicks. We're even on kicks with most teams, but it's because we're not doing a handball and we're just dump kicking it forward or something like that. The fact that we could kind of still had to play that way because that's just where we are at the moment. But the thing is, we've talked a few times about in games when you're going in to play an opposition and there's stat discrepancies, you just don't want to see them be any worse. And it's interesting, the disposal efficiency, both teams are pretty much right at their season average. We're at 54% for the season. We're at 53.1 for the game. Melbourne are at 65%. Where else are looking? Clearances as well. At stoppage, Melbourne were a few stoppages down, stoppage clearances down on their season average. We were just right on it. Center clearances, we won by 3. So kind of like we, as a total clearance number, both teams were actually very, very similar, but we won clearances by 4. Contested possessions, we were right on our season average of 120, but they were almost 4 contested possessions down. These are marginal things, but it's what we want to see. When you see those gaps extrapolate out, it's when you've been seeing our losses. This is a similar theme to those that have listened to the men's reviews throughout the year. We talked about trying to contain those gaps. When teams have got gaps on you, you just want to contain those and then win the game in the ways that are intrinsic to again, DNA, just the theme of the pod now. What's intrinsic to your DNA that you can control, and then you try to just manage those gaps that you're clearly deficient in, but just manage them. And that's what we did in this one, which was really pleasing. We turned the ball over more, but we were able to, our pressure on their ball carriers meant that those turnovers were mitigated a little bit. And again, that's just that thing that
And I have a feeling that blew out in the last quarter without going back on it.
You're probably right.
I have a feeling that doesn't help that statistical line in that regard, because it did get a little bit frustrating, you've watched football long enough, you know that it's due to a bit of fatigue. We got a bit grab and kick esque at stages, and I think one of what makes it just a little bit more frustrating is that some of these grab and go kicks were from senior players. I remember Ash Woodland had a fantastic game, but one sticks out to me quite prevalently from the last quarter, when I think we were chatting via message at the time, and it was at a stage of the game. It was getting late-ish in the last quarter, and had she looked up, there was a ground ball and she grabbed it, and without looking up, she just put it on the boot, and it was a direct turnover again. Centre half back with the lane right open for Melbourne to just rebound straight back in to the danger areas. And we had players forward of the ball, but you don't look, and that's what happens. And that was a little bit frustrating. And for those watching on YouTube, and to reference Lionel Hutz, like you mentioned the dump kicking before, like there's dump kicking and there's dump kicking, kicking for territory is a fair enough ploy, particularly under pressure, but it's how you kick for territory. Obviously, we've got the lasso, last disposal out of bounds in the AFLW. Great rule. Have loved it in the AFLW and SANFL.
Soon to be coming to an AFL men's field.
Everyone knows what's going on. So you got to be careful down the line in that regard. But there's d dump kicking in quotations to advantage, still to advantage of a player forward of the ball. And I think for the most part, when you say dump, like that's just kind of our mode of disposal by and large. I think we're generally kicking it in space or to the advantage of a Gemma Houghton or an Inti Tahoe in this season's form. Whereas, yeah, when we're the first month of football or like the West Coast game as well, and then late in this game, it was blind dump kicking, which is just fraught with danger, no matter what level of football
Not
you're
just
playing.
not getting any
And
power
those are
through it,
the
so they're kind of floating in up and or going out for touch, and yeah, they're just
yeah,
they're
yeah.
tight leg
Well,
kick.
and not giving our players ahead of the ball an opportunity to even halve the contest, ending up in direct turnovers again in some crucial spots on the field, which can severely hurt you when you've done all that hard work as well. Again, good to slug a win out and have opportunities for improvement and players to come back in as well. But, no win at the moment is without its opportunities for improvement. But you just got to collect the points along the way. And in the AFLW at the moment, I feel that you as a football club can have your own DNA,
Mm,
whatever that may be, and make it work. It's just the way that it is at the moment, which is I think it's quite cool. Where in the men's competition, because it is built on 150 plus years of history, and more so in the modern era, a lot of decades of professionalism. The margins are so small
mm,
in the men's competition, whereas it is kind of like everyone's playing the same game, and it is kind of X factor on the day. In our regard, Zach Butters on the day having just those moments of brilliance that can
mm,
sometimes separate games of football. Whereas, yeah, in the AFLW, what I enjoy is seeing these teams and what's their one wood and
yeah,
how are they going to utilize that to gain the ascendancy, which I feel that you can at the moment. Like ours is obvious, and Melbourne's was obvious. It was two contrasting styles,
mm,
but both teams laid claims to a victory on the day. Another aspect of the league and the competition that I'm finding enjoyment at being on the journey, knowing
mm.
that you are on a journey to I don't know, a more widely accepted standard, which I don't care about
Yeah,
at the heart of it, but you understand where I'm coming from.
yeah. We're still in like a budding stage of the entire world of AFLW sport. Like we're so early into its genesis that we're just like, yeah, but we're still seeing such good examples of footy in between. And like, yeah, you were just talking about, I wanted to go back to it and we can talk a little bit about just a couple of people like in the good aspects of that dump kick, because you just mentioned how like when we're kind of kicking for that territory and actually putting the kicks to advantage, like the Indy Tahoe forward of the ball, but Gemma as well. They both kind of feasted on a couple of opportunities when ball came into space in this one, and Indy's certainly going to feature probably later again. I would assume because she had a very very good game. But yeah, we've really unlocked something by just flicking that switch and taking her down forward, and it seems like that's going to be her role now. Like there's been a few weeks now, and she's down there and she's kicking goals every week. If we give her opportunity, she's a good finisher, both whether it be set shots or on the run, like that one where she was getting tackled.
Being tugged.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, like she's
When
and
Julie Teakle's been changed to a TVC now as well.
yeah, friend of the
That
pod,
would have
Simon.
been the only like interesting scenario where if she was coming back,
But
do
then
they make the switch back, or do you just have a even more potent forward line? But
I think that just
yeah,
keeps Woodland in the middle more now for me. Like I'm just like just fucking make her midfield. But yeah,
no complaints whatsoever
exactly.
with the
Um,
stories.
in my head, I was just like, you got some real like Adam Scott Step Brothers energy. I love that. That's where you were going. Actually, yeah. Guilty as charged with the positional movements. Um, Yeah, I just yeah, I mean that Teagle one, friend of the pod Simon, kind of replied to the story. Sorry, the story, the tweet on Twitter to the women's team, kind of because a few people have been like, "Oh, Youngie's back, Cuthman's, or they're back for selection," and that's teasing forward to the previous stuff. But everyone's pretty excited. And I'm excited as well to the fact that Cuthbertson and Young are available for selection this week. But yeah, friend of the pod Simon kind of replied to the thing and was just like, "Wait, Teagle's TPC now? What does that mean? What does this mean?"
Yeah.
So it's either like, "Oh no, she's good," but yeah, usually it's test or available if they're getting close. So yeah, I
Yeah.
wonder what's going on there. But
Yeah, with a
yeah, I mean,
foot.
what Tahoe does because she's so athletic and quick as well, like she can bring it and she's a strong overhead mark. She's a contested
Mm.
mark threat. She's doing a lot of everything you want out of a forward. Like she plays, she's not not the. I mean, she's still a pretty tall player, but like she's kind of like what she reminds me of, and I don't hate doing the men's comparison, but just trying to bridge the gap for she's got that. There's a Mitch Georgiades-esque quality to her, the way she flies at a pack, or she can find space for herself if she needs to lead for a mark,
Hmm.
and just the way she can, her general play stuff is really, really dangerous, and then she's a reasonable target as well, as far as a marking forward.
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely. She can rip one out of anywhere, a mark that is, and
mhm,
probably a goal. There were stages throughout the day where when the ball was in the vicinity, as well, and it was sorry, when Indy Tahoe was in the vicinity, it was just felt like something was going to happen,
mhm,
and like she was flying like in packs, and it came off a couple of times, and a couple of that like it didn't, but it was like, oh, where is she? Which we usually and we did in this game. To be fair, we get those feelings with the Gemma Houghton because it's like, oh, what's going to happen?
mhm.
Try stopping her kind of thing. So yeah, it's really enjoyable when we're in this mode that we now have a couple of people who it's just like, oh, well, Gemma can get you on the ground. She's a bit like a raptor in
Mhm.
that regard. And but yeah, the comparison is fairly apt, particularly how she played against Melbourne and more so for her last 3 to 4 weeks. Just reckless abandon, going at the ball if it's in the air. She is a good mark, so why the hell wouldn't you?
Mhm.
And she's such a good kick. She's got length on it. So
Yeah.
try and get the mark wherever you can, basically inside 50. She's about a 40, 45 meter kick, I reckon, is her limit.
Mhm.
I think she kicked one from about 40, which is great. It's handy in this competition, but it's astounding. And she would have been spewing that she's missed essentially 2 seasons. But what a refreshing addition it is to our team in season 2025. Just as an extension of the forward structure, I mentioned in the preview about getting our captain involved in the game,
Mhm.
MULES-ROBINSON, and I don't know if it was something that I was just made aware of in this game, and that we've actually been utilizing in the previous games before. But our forwards got really deep or really high in the defensive half,
Mhm.
trying to impact in that zone when the ball was in that area. But what it also meant is that yeah, Gemma and Juzzy MULES-ROBINSON could impact around contest and around stoppage at that extra layer out. But it also meant that like we had space forward. So again, with the surge
Mhm.
kicking, it gave them space to work forward of the ball, which again I think was a bit of a characteristic of how we were shaping up last year. So it that because I mentioned that if you can't, particularly the captain, I've gone on about it a few times, probably more so than I need to, but if she's stuck forward and we're not getting it anywhere near her, then like it's a little spark that we're not utilizing. So
Mhm.
her getting up around the ball in particular, and Houghton, who is the barometer, helps to light those fires, I feel. And again, I don't know if it's just I've finally made note of it and we've actually been trying to do that since the start, or if it's just something we implemented better in this game, and it worked to our benefit, giving us space once we did turn the ball over to work it forward, and let them go to work running onto the ball, because we all know how well Gemma Houghton can just leave opponents in her dust when the ball's tracking forward in space, letting her do a bit of magic. It's fantastic. And she did kick a goal. Actually, those two combined, that little spoil over the defenders from Mules-Robinson to go into Gemma's hands, that was awesome. And then Mongrel punted it from about 40 meters out herself, rolling along the ground. It's
Yeah.
awesome.
Had Daniel Harford in a conniption trying to figure out how she kicks the ball to make it do that in the
Yeah,
commentary. Um,
yeah. I mean, you just kick the opposite point to
yeah,
what you
I think it's just you.
should do. Yeah.
Sometimes you just give it a when in doubt, give it a clout kind of thing. Like it's just she's just
Yeah.
thrown it on the boot, but she's talented enough to kind of just know what she's doing and
Oh yeah, yeah. I just thought it's that type of kick that you used to it's like the British Bulldogs kind of equivalent. Kind of like, yeah, you just like, yeah, dribble it into your
yeah,
mate, and then like hopefully it pops up into their gut or something like that. But yeah, hold it horizontally, kick it on the closest point, and
mm,
yeah, end over end.
yeah.
So yeah, for a guy who's played professional football, yeah, it was interesting that he didn't really understand it, because you can see her holding it horizontally. She knows what's up.
Mhm.
That's why
Yeah,
we love her.
and it's also just like we see players in men's and women's footy that kick balls along the ground and get them to tumble into the goal all the time. So it was funny to listen to them commentate about that. But she was very unlucky not to have a second one as well in a similar kind of situation. In that one that she probably had a bit more time.
Slammed it into the post.
Yeah, but she was very very close to having another multi-goal game. Back to Juzzy for a second. It's funny because you talk about whether it's something we've done, because it's the first time I noticed it as well in this game, because it was you talking about it, I was like, I noticed it too. Like there was a moment at half back in the third quarter that she was just in and around some contest as the ball was kind of coming in and out of stoppage in the boundary, and it was just like, and she was just there, and I was like, that's interesting. She's come up the ground a little bit trying to help defense, so. Yeah, whether it's something that we've been doing, but it's just more noticeable in this game, who knows? But I was very, very happy with the fact that there was a bit more of that. And maybe that's just a little bit more of what the message was like a little bit more help pressure. If if the ball's hanging around that zone, you can come up a little bit.
If Melbourne are going to flick it around, then congest it up.
Extra bodies up there, extra pressure, and players like Juzzy, who are kind of the heart and soul. Obviously, she's been given the captaincy for the reason that she's gonna get in there and apply herself, and having that extra help up there will be really really good. Defensively, I think helped by the pressure up the field again. It's a theme that just carries through all of footy and all of our reviews across the year, whether it be men's or women's. I think we really helped out at defense by putting more pressure on the ball carrier going inside 50, which is why they didn't get the great opportunities up until even late. They didn't get a ton of great opportunities. That's why they weren't able to actually turn that late game pressure into a win, because we're still trying to, it was desperate pressure by the end, but we were still putting it on. But I think this was a game that really showed that we do have, it's a very, very young defense, but with Emily Borg kind of centering that, like structuring that line down there, if we can help give them the help, we're in pretty good hands down there, I think. As Jamie's mouthing,
Yeah.
I feel like the
that.
aliens from Toy Story. Like now with the straw, the straw.
Well, I was going to say in relation to a gift that I tagged you in Twitter today, straw. Adam Driver
Also
from
that,
the sequel trilogy of the
one.
Star Wars saga.
Yeah, and it's a good movie. The Last Jedi,
straw.
good movie.
No, but I obviously absolutely agree. But just a credit to everyone. Like, yeah, we won. Vibes are good, but it's the dimensions, and it's just the It's just the incremental progress that a couple of players have made as well along the way. In particular, Jermac and Syme again.
Hmm.
They've really got a license to take the game on, obviously. But what's more important for me is Jermac, her line running and her power running. It doesn't seem haphazard. It seems not calculated because it's all in the moment, but it's with real intent.
She's calm.
And yeah, yeah, she
Like
is.
that's
And she doesn't mind copping a half tackle to just soak up a bit of pressure and then release to a teammate. Again, we can work on our handballing. She did go at 75% from her 8 disposals, though, to be fair.
mhm.
And Syme is just her stats probably don't truly reflect it, although she did get 268 meters gained, 4 marks, and a few other nice stats. But she's really reading the game well, I think. With her assistance in defense, intercepting, spoiling, whatnot. But her crumbing and then acceleration or changing of angles into the center, I feel we've commented on it a couple of times, but it seems to be incrementally improving as the season progresses. There was a few instances in this game against Melbourne. One in particular, she crumbed it, and within moment, like within a nanosecond, she knew where she needed to go because she kicked it on a 45 into the corridor. I think it was an effective kick, and we were away. But it obviously showed to me that she had a fair handle on what the game looked like at that moment, and she'd read the play well enough, crumbed well enough, and just exploded away from the defensive area to set us up going forward.
Mhm.
Those are the kind of things that fill me with confidence, like you mentioned, as a whole with this defense is we're multi-dimensional. I mean, Alyssa Brooks not really lighting up the stat sheet either, but she had a couple of moments, and she came up the ground as well on one or two occasions, and was involved in some possession chains, which kind of speaks to her part nous for the game coming up as a junior prospect.
Mhm.
With time, I think she'll develop into a nice, well-rounded defender in similarly to a Borg, but it was nice to see her just get that time on ground as well, holding a key position, but as well as that, being confident to come up the ground and just try and drive the ball forward too. Um, she may lose her spot this week, but again, it we were kind of speaking about it in regards to Patreon member Simon, who you've already given a shout out today. His concern with our defense and lack of drafting a defender recently, but we probably played devil's advocate, the two of us, and gave an opposing view in our previous show. And
Mhm.
I guess this game typifies what I guess we're seeing is that there's no genuine superstar, while Emily Borg is the kind of central figure, and she generally takes the best forward on the day while being,
And she's gonna be a
so young
superstar.
in her own right.
Yeah.
I just feel as a package, they're building together.
Hmm.
And shout out to Ebony O'Day. Her second half I thought was fantastic. Maybe a bit quiet in the first half, but as soon as the third quarter started, and once we got into our work for the third and fourth quarters, I felt that she had a real impact, and she is one of the more senior figures in that area as well. So I felt it was important on that topic
Mm.
for her to lift, and she quite noticeably did, and then ended up with some team leading statistics,
Mm.
or in the top bracket by the end of the game, which speaks to her endeavour not to give up on the contest, even if she did have a quiet first half. Yeah, always wanted to give her a shout out as soon as the game finished, or as soon as I started noticing her in the second half, because she's obviously a cult figure and a favorite of the show. So it is really a group effort, and obviously assisted by pressure up the field. It's funny what
Yeah.
happens. in football when team defense is dialed to that nth degree.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. It's the same in any sport that structures itself around a different positional. Like you dissect a soccer game if a midfield's been non-existent as far as its pressure and left a defense is going to find itself under having to take on more shots and players getting into positions easier because a midfield just isn't controlling playing a soccer game. It's the same. And so, yeah, defenses in any sport that is kind of structured with a forward midfield defense dynamic in the way of a positional free flowing game, it's gonna, midfield performance is going to have a great impact on how a defense can actually perform its role optimally. And we saw, while we still are a team that is struggling to find its way to a good possession numbers, if we can do the right thing as far as just application to the game and making the life not easy for the ball carrier of the opposition, then you're going to give your defense every chance, and especially a defense that has some budding stars in the likes of Emily Borg, Molly Brooksby, Jermack, I think, is in that. She's one that's really I love that she's gone on from her first year. Because you could have been like, one season wonder, like how does someone who's come in as an injury replacement player who's then gotten a contract and how but Jermack seems to have grown another level early this year. And then, it's Ebony O'Day. I'm glad you gave her a shout out because she had, I know we've talked about it, I think last year at one point, I know it was she applied some tackles that I was just like, I'm just sore watching the person get up from an Ebony O'Day tackle, like those tackles. Because Ebony O'Day finishes a tackle, speak
about reckless abandon. Yeah,
she finishes a tackle very well, and I could see a few players get up, like Melbourne players, just get up a little bit sore, like after an Ebs tackle on the weekend, and she's probably one of those players that when we're fully fit, I'm like, because she's often starting on the bench and. She is a leader, but she's on the veteran end of things. And as we get fully fit, hopefully at some point, like Emily O'Day's been one that's just in my mind. I've been musing on, is she one of the ones that could possibly lose a spot when we're fully fit? And with the young players, we're clearly trying to mold this defense around. But she kind of had one of those games that reminds you that you've got to have that. We've talked about in the men's this year with people complaining about just not everyone throwing all the kids in. Is you've got to have a balance of veterans and kids, and in particular with this women's side, where a lot of kids in the grand scheme of what the age profile of teams. That tweet you showed tagged me in the other day, it was Emlyn Breeze with the age profiles of, and what were we, the third youngest side in the AFLW or something like that versus experience. And
it was around about that. If it wasn't third, it was fourth.
Yeah,
youngest.
Very, 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 very young in the grand scheme of AFLW. I think that was, and it was partly about where they're tracking as far as where they are now. But either way, we're a young side. So, Ebony O'Day's kind of a few of those kind of players like her performing the way she did on the weekend kind of adds that, there's a good dynamic in the side at the moment. Yes, it's not perfect, and some of the football is going to be frustrating at times. But, this weekend it was grit and determination that got a result, which makes me very happy as a Port fan, because that's what we have loved about the side, even when they were only winning 1 or 2 games a year in those first couple of seasons, was by and large, we still were seeing performances we were proud of, even though it was obviously tough sledding.
Work in progress.
Yeah, exactly. One more I wanted to, I'm not sure it's worth the, I like Jasmine Soden had a couple of good moments. Again, I don't know once we get a bit more fully fit, how some of these ones retain spots, but and that's a good problem to have. Chloe Gaunt's marking goal was again very, very good stuff. She's still not getting a whole lot of opportunity because she's still spot, but and she'll be one that might be under threat when if we do get a few more players back from injury. But again, her mark and goal, like that's kind of that little bit of stuff that we've been looking at in what we've been looking at as planning for how this team's trying to move around. And I'll give her the plaudits because her mark and goal was very good. And alternatively, as much as I love Scholes with the 2 opportunities she got in like a minute, she missed both of them. One of them was just a shocker of a kick. The other one, she just floated wide. And I was just like, when Matilda gets it all together and like she got it all together in the Gold Coast game at opposition. When she starts getting it together like she did against Gold Coast, against teams like Melbourne, then we'll be getting really excited. But Gaunt taking her one opportunity essentially was really like a great mark. Like that was a tough mark in a contest, and finished very well. That's the one thing that I'm excited about with Gaunt is like seems to have some good finishing ability because she's kicked a couple of goals with very, very limited opportunity this year.
Yeah, that's it. I've obviously professed my raps on her. Yeah, and yeah, 45% time on ground. So she is really a support act
Mm-hmm.
to if Schultz needs a spell either up forward or on the bench, and we need a backup in ruck because she is quite tall in her own right. There are elements of a slightly younger Schultz, although Schultz is obviously a unicorn of the competition. I think that yeah, there's something to be excited about in the future with Gaunt. Like if you extrapolate just the minute details that we've seen so far, you can see a challenge for opposition defenders in the future. And then, yeah, she's not really getting much time on ground, and she's getting brief times around the ball. She really does need to work on her ruck craft. She is getting pushed
Mm-hmm.
around when she is filling in there. However, there was a few occasions where her second efforts came into it when you're losing the hit out or whatnot, or if the hit out is going down to contest, she's following up with some tackling and whatnot or pressure on the ball. Sowden is again, her numbers don't reflect it, but I think I can see why she's played every game so far this season. I just feel it may be a bit of the Piper Windows of 2024, just wide-eyed
Mm-hmm.
to the competition that she's in, because there's just moments that it probably aren't reflected on the telecast, but it's pre-possession or assisting around a teammate with possession and stuff like that. I don't know. You just look, if you've watched footy for long enough, body language in the way that you're scanning the ground and you're kind of looking for options with or without the ball. I'm just summing up what's going on. And I can kind of see that working over in her mind, but it's just bridging that gap between junior level women's football and just taking that next step and just getting involved in the game a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
She had some moments where I think she was a culprit of a bit of a dodgy handball when we were kind of out and running on the outer wing. That didn't quite execute quite well, but it's not a lot to go off of. And yeah, she may be a casualty with some players back in as well. But I think I can see again why she's played every game, and
Mm-hmm.
it'll be interesting to see how her season finishes up because I think it was at about this stage in the season last year that Piper Window started to really accelerate in her improvement within game and within the season last year because she definitely started slow in her own right. With Jazzy Sowden, I'm quite keen to see how she progresses. While her numbers may unfortunately result in her being a casualty, but it'll be interesting to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean numbers. It's interesting. Look, like just talking pure numbers because we have a lot of play. Like we don't have big possession players even right at the top. So
Mm,
yeah, it's hard to quantify what 7 possessions for Jazzy Soden at 28% disposal efficiency. But like, there's some things she did that were she had some really real a couple of effective disposals were really really clean good kicks. So like that's just yeah, I it's when they're not getting a whole lot of opportunity, and as we said, I mean, leading disposal getter was 20 disposals, so we're just not a team that gets as much of the ball, and as such, we kind of key in on for some of these players. We're just looking at like I mean, Chloe Gaunt. We're talking about her, and it's like she had 2 disposals for the game. One of them,
yeah, I know. Yeah.
yeah, but that's what you've got to do when you're looking at some of these players. Is like look at a limited, a really small sample size, but kind of just start to gauge. And like it's a great insight for you having been at the game, that pre-possession stuff and that stuff. That's why I love going to games live, is because you do see that stuff a different view from the telecast in what a player's seeing and how a player's positioning themselves outside, like off the ball and stuff like that as well. And yeah, you can see it. You
Yeah,
can definitely
definitely.
see a decently intelligent player in Jazzy Soden. So yeah, no, I'm looking forward to seeing her growth. And like if she keeps her spot, then I'm yeah really interested to see how. Your point is a very good one about how Piper Window's kind of trajectory last year was quite exponential, and how she went from that first game versus how she finished the year was, you know, a completely different player in what 3 months of football basically. So yeah, you can yeah change your game quite quickly in AFLW with just how the game is at the moment. Did you any other particular points? I'm trying to look at my notes, and I don't think I have anything more before we get to Player of the Year. But if you've got anything else from the day or from your notes, definitely go for it.
No, because AFLW is a bit of a journey, and we tend to want to focus on every player and how they contributed or didn't contribute.
Yeah.
I think we've covered most bases here, and again, it was just nice to have a lot of contributors, a decently even contribution, and to guts out a win against a team who is still second on the ladder and
Mhm.
who had big raps on them after the first month of football.
Yeah, yeah. That's the thing that I don't think we've really mentioned that, but we did mention in the preview. But this was a previously undefeated side. Yes, the teams they played were mostly down the bottom half of the ladder, but they are a decent side, and they were like premiership winner a few years ago. Like this is a side that's been around for a while, knows what they're doing, and yeah, that's a very very good win for our side to as they continue their trajectory as well. Yeah, like if that's everything there, then let's get onto the Player of the Year votes. Now it's time for the CREEDCAST Player of the Year voting. Alrighty, Jamie, you get to go first. I'd be really intrigued to see how yours went. Having had both a live view of the game as well as obviously replay viewing as well. Jamie, let's hear your votes.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. I have plenty of honorable mentions, but I will obviously leave them for when you do your votes or until after you've finished vocalizing your votes. So I'm going to get into my number one vote, and I've actually given it to Ella Heads. She's definitely been a positive addition to our side, and we've brought her up on many occasions. And this game, no less, is just kind of is a great example of everything that we've kind of spoken about. Even contribution from a statistical point of view with the 16 disposals, a few of them intercepts. She generated the 293 meters gain, 3 marks and 4 tackles. So definitely a role player, but with her, her positioning is also quite influential. It's almost the way that she travels around the ground almost makes it look like she's one of the leaders of the team already in a
Hmm.
way. And well, the fact that she's come in, one of our best marking players, consistently up there for tackles, possessions, just she's got a great engine and a great feel for the game, I feel, and it's been a great acquisition by um, our list manager, Naomi Maidment.
Hmm.
I believe I saw her in the post-match vision as well. So she's doing great work. She's put together quite a fantastic list going forward in the AFLW. My two votes goes to Indy Tahoe. I had her higher. Obviously, the forwards we love to put a bit of weighting on, but
Hmm.
had to keep her in the two spot. 11 disposals. She was kicking at or disposing at 63%. 3 marks, two of which were contested. She obviously kicked the 3 goals, won. All those goals were phenomenal. Three inside 50s herself and 6 tackles. So um, getting it done in a few regards
Hmm.
definitely deserved a shout out and just a, as we spoke about earlier, just an amazing re-entry to the fold for
Hmm.
Indy Tahoe. Um, 3 votes who we haven't really spoken about much, probably because we've both got her coming up in this portion of the episode. But Shanae Goody, you know, superlative central, member of the Dark Arts Club as well, which I love.
Yeah.
She, again, being at the ground, just seeing that post contest scuffle that when the camera shifts, you can kind of keep an eye on when you're there. Really getting under the nerves of some opposition players across the journey. Yeah, she's just smarter than a lot of other AFLW footballers. She has great possession. She makes good decisions, a good tank, a good engine, good speed off the line. Yeah, just an amazing pickup for us. We asked for 15 to 20 disposals. She had 14. So she was knocking on the door of where we expect her to be. And kind of correlation correlation-y, it's kind of that thing where if Sinead Goody's in that 15 to 20 mark in conjunction with a couple of other players who are going to come up soon, then we know we're playing a good game. We know we're getting good service. And it's probably, I don't know if this was by design. It's a aside, but I don't know if it was by design or just the way that the game unfolded. But we've spoken about how good Matilda Schultz is as a footballer, but sometimes she can tend to try and do a bit too much on her own. And again, I don't know if it was by design, but Schultz's numbers were a little bit down. But just it seemed like we had more avenues to score or to generate forward movement in this game in particular off the back of our pressure and stoppage work. And Goody typified that. Yeah, she was everywhere. Loved her game. Just to wrap up her stats: 14 disposals, 9 of which are contested, 5 intercepts, 64% disposal efficiency, just under 350 meters gain, 5 clearances, 4 inside 56 tackles. A nice stat sheet for Shanae. My 4 votes goes to Ashley Woodland, lamenting her workmanlike start to the season, not really getting any plaudits, and her last couple of weeks in particular have been fantastic. 20 disposals for her, 12 contested, 4 intercepts herself, 420 meters gained, great number, 5 clearances, 4 inside 50s, and 6 tackles herself. So clearances, inside 50s, and tackles all matched Shanae Goody, unless I've accidentally copy and pasted that in the wrong spot. I think that's right though, because I remember kind of double taking at the stat sheet. Yeah, so just love Ash Woodland as a player. As we covered last season and getting through that first month, just looking for a bit more out of the side. And then it was kind of, I think the first time we played Richmond last year, Ash came up the ground a little bit more. She was getting involved in a bit of stoppage because she was getting lost. It was at a point in the season where, and similarly to a couple of games this year, our forwards were just getting nothing. And at that stage in the season, our forwards were kind of our best players, but they weren't getting their hands on the ball. So we kind of discussed about how we could better just switch the magnets to get our best players and our barometers, such as Houghton and Woodland being an All-Australian, member of the top 10 AFLW goal kickers list.
We've got a lot of talk on the
on the telecast. Yeah, well, hey, it was great for me. It was quite interesting. I obviously didn't know that myself. Would have figured that Gemma Houghton would be in there, but not having played Melbourne, Kate Hoare, and I mentioned her before. Her name escapes me. The Melbourne forward.
Oh, Harris.
Harris, of course. Yeah. Not being front of mind for those types of statistics, but anyway, Woodland came at the ground, got a fan, and we were like, hang on, maybe there's something there, because she was getting around the ball, she was getting down and dirty, bringing other people into the game, and then it kind of flowed on from there. Last season, and she spent more time in the middle, and we just looked like a more well-rounded side, particularly midfield group from that point on. And she's picked up just where she left off. She's quite genuinely a mid-forward in this iteration rather than a forward mid, which was kind of her split last year. She's obviously done a lot of work on her tank. She's always looked strong and imposing, but her pressure is phenomenal. Generally up there with the tackles for us this season, and and just a real leader.
Mm.
I think she's relishing it in that regard too, being that older player. She's not, she's got many years in front of her in the AFLW
Mm.
competition, but I believe she's about 26, 27. I don't want to age her. I know that's a cardinal sin, but she's in that nice age bracket where she's coming into her peak,
Yeah.
and it'll only benefit us moving forward. And Dave, can I get a copy and paste? Because yeah, our our resident number 5 voter, Abby Dowrick, just letting a few other people in recent times have their go, but just decided to strap on a feed bag, and 19 disposals, 11 contested, 6 intercepts, just under 500 meters gained, 5 clearances, score involvements, rebound 50s, but a phenomenal 13 tackles as
Hmm.
well. She really led from the front in that regard. And I got to put my hand up. I totally underestimated her game until I saw her again and then
Mm.
looked into the stats. Um, yeah, yeah. Don't know what I was looking at. Um, Certainly notice her assisting down back in terms of rebound 50 options as well. But yeah, I was out of all the things that I did notice attending and then in replay, yeah, Abby Dowrick. Maybe it is because she's just so good. It's just it's a tolerance to Abby
Mm.
Dowrick's game. It just doesn't wash over me anymore.
Yeah.
It just is what it is. Just
She's just
a
doing,
stock standard.
it's that metronome thing of like she's doing what we want her to do and we're used to her doing. Like we do that with some of the men's players as well when they just have like, if Butters has 25,
A
30 and that's,
standard great
yeah,
game.
yeah, you go, well,
It's
like,
like,
but
oh, I wanted I
what more
wanted out
can
of
you
this
do for me?
world.
Yeah, I wanted 42 and 3 goals and like, yeah. Um, but yeah, it was like when obviously I didn't get to see all of it live, but watching the game on the replay, you just saw like she was really some of that stuff that particularly contrasting it with the West Coast game where I really felt like she was off the boil a little bit. Like you saw her like locked in on some of the pressure stuff and the tackling, and then she was getting a lot of good ball forward and where that a lot of those meters gain numbers comes from. But she was right back into that. I think to your point though, it's just like when Goody's improving because we're seeing her as a real young player, even though Derek's relatively young too. And we see Goody have a better game than what we've been seeing. We go, yeah, Goody, and then Woodland's in the midfield, and that's a kind of a new toy as well. So it's like, yes, like
Yeah.
Derek's just always there doing the Derek things. So, um, I should read out my votes too.
Yes, your votes.
Yeah,
Go
yeah.
ahead.
So I'll do honorable. There's a few honorable mentions, and this is one. I'll start off with one that I very, very got close to putting into my one spot. But Tegan Jermack, I just think was
Yeah.
fantastic as well. She led the team for intercepts. She didn't have a whole lot of the ball, but the fact what she did with it was quite handy. She got very, very close to getting to my votes. The same with a lot across that back line. Molly Brooksby was very, very close again as well because I just love her game, and every game I watch her play, then I like have a look at her stats and kind of like I go like that's exactly what I saw and was like really impressed with that as well. So kind of like those two running off halfback are often close to my votes if they're having decent games because I just really, really appreciate what they do. But yeah, otherwise very actually same names, just a slight change to the order in a bit. But I had Ella Heads in my one spot as well. She's quickly become a favorite for me. I just love her calm head. She's like just does it. There's a lot that she does, and just her reading of the game and how she reads the field ahead. Like she's just a good decision maker, and her stats don't always show that, but I think I think sometimes
Yeah.
it's like how we're playing and what we try to bite off. Sometimes, again, I think we talked about in the West Coast game. Sometimes the kicks are decent, and sometimes the play upfield isn't as good, and like we're still figuring some of those things out. So that'll come with time. But yeah, I loved Ella Head's game. I had Goody in my 2 spot. I felt bad about it because I think actually your points are all very, very valid. Like, and I actually wanted to get her up higher, but I just couldn't because in my 3 spot I put Indy Tahoe because I just think the three
Hmm.
goals were so crucial. They were clutch. Her
Wow.
Her contested game, her marking game, everything she was doing, she was like, I honestly, yeah, if we don't have Indy Tahoe in that game, we don't win that game. That's how important she was. Like, if she's injured and we're throwing someone else into that position, I just don't think we're winning that game. That's just how important she was in the role she played and her finishing as well. So, yeah, I was so impressed, and I'm just so happy she's back. It's incredible the fact she's come back from 600 odd days out from footy and just fucking seamlessly dropped back in and immediately being an incredible point of difference, and a real target for us. The next two, same as you, Ash Woodland. I wanted to get her into the 5 spot, but Dowrick's numbers are undeniable as far as the tackling, the disposals. But the fact that we have Woodland, Dowrick, and Goody combined for 15 clearances is a real nice little sign, considering we're missing we're not even talking about Kirsty Lamb's number. We're talking about those three as the clearance leaders in the side, and Lamb's still there. Piper Window's not back in the side. We're starting to find some midfield dynamism in a side that
some layers.
Yeah, exactly. There's a real onion quality to this Port Adelaide midfield. It's starting to develop. Still not perfect. It's still going to be something that'll be interesting to see how it develops, because we want to start getting to that point of having a midfielders getting bigger possession numbers and really dominating games. But for a young side that's still in the kind of the genesis of what they're going to be, yeah, I really love those numbers. But yeah, Dowrick, best on ground for me. As you said, copy and paste. Back to a little bit of normality from what we saw last year, which is a good thing, because as our season got better last year, Dowrick was featuring pretty regularly. So if Dowrick's right around the best players, then we're always a chance of winning a game.
Yeah, and Dowrick got robbed of an All-Australian squad spot, I think. I think it was just Borg and Schultz from memory.
Yeah, I think we had a bit of an issue about that. Yeah, we weren't too happy with it.
Because she's just such a consistent performer, and yeah, maybe it is the low disposals in comparison to other midfielders in the comp, but she's a player that the opposition always has to keep an eye on, because she can rip them apart.
Yeah,
and so yeah,
and she can go forward.
To round off.
We had that.
Yeah,
was that fine?
She's got a good enough kick.
Yeah,
and then again, late last year, as you mentioned, as the team got better, she was just impacting everywhere. And it was later in the year where she was around forward stoppage and just impacting on goal all of a sudden. And the commentary at that point in time in 2024 was this is where Dowrick has room to grow. Is she can get her 20 to 25 hopefully, and then convert on the scoreboard as well, which is a tough magnet to sort out for an opposition coach and team.
Yeah.
Which I absolutely agree with. So we asked for Shanae and Abby to get 15 to 20, but I'd still like Shanae to get, well, she got 14, so she didn't quite get there, but yeah, I'd still, yeah. And again, I don't know how we manufacture it, because if we're winning, which look, we're still less than 50% win-loss, so we've got work to do, but I'm hoping that this can be a spark for the rest of our season, and therefore I hope that Shanae and Abby can get those extra 5 possessions. And maybe it is link-up play. Maybe it is just taking an extra handball or possession just to really cut up an opponent rather than throwing caution to the wind. I don't know how we do it. I just know that if we're reading those numbers on the page, that we're probably having a good game, or we've probably had a good game in retrospect.
Yeah, that's really, it's getting those ones into those numbers, and I think to add into that, it's also the Woodland. If she's adding into those numbers as well, you're starting to really, and then once Window and Co come back, just going to be. Yeah, it's going to be a tasty. It's still like a side that's still got a couple of years of development in a few of those players, but yeah, there's some real exciting little seeds getting planted there as well. yeah,
Hmm.
I'm loving the Woodland move. I'm loving Tahoe going forward. Been some good magnet shifts early in this year. That's whether we were I don't know if we were going to see. I think the Woodland one was definitely one that was up there, and I'm sure the Tahoe move forward was like in the back pocket of the coaches, but she certainly started down back. So yeah, it's a good place to be for this side. Yeah, really excited going forward. And I mean, going forward, we can quickly touch on what we've got coming up this week. Geelong come to Alberton on early Saturday afternoon. Actually, it's 12:35 match up back at Alberton again, which is really really nice to be able to get a back to back home kind of stand against a couple of decent sides. Geelong sitting in a very very similar spot to us on the ladder. They're actually just above us on the ladder. Same win loss, but 10 percentage points better. They've had a couple of wins on the bounce as well. So kind of another interesting test, but one that I think again, it's going to be one that application will come to it, and I think if this side can stick to kind of what they discovered about themselves against Melbourne, they're a really really good chance. The betting odds are still in Geelong's favour, but a lot shorter than they were against last week. So if last week's anything to go by, like never tell me the odds, as Han Solo once said, because the odds can go out the window as long as you change. The odds are something that you can change based on how you play, and I think that this side kind of showed that on the weekend. Before I get your thoughts, Jamie, quickly, we did touch on it before, but Lauren Young, long-awaited debut, could be on the cards. But
Loading.
yes, loading. I think the way putting her out as available is a big tease to give the Port Adelaide fans if you're not going to select her.
Yeah.
And our former captain, sadly injured only 2 games into her captaincy, but Janelle Cuthbertson, who I think we talked about after her first game last year, we were really, really happy with how she started, but she's available for selection as well. So one player that we know very, very well as far as what she can do in Janelle Cuthbertson available, and one that we don't know what she can do yet, but are very, very excited with the wraps that are on her and Lauren Young that could both come back into the side this week.
It is exciting. This is what we've been holding out for. And JC, one quality that we really liked from her at the start of last season was obviously her presence, but she also had a good intercept marking ability in which we missed from a marking point of view across the whole season, even though we did finish up preliminary finals, preliminary finalists. Um, from the CREEDCAST point of view, we laid extra importance on our marking game because it seemed to be a key stat in how we were going, and she definitely showed her ability in that regard early from an intercept point of view, particularly. So it'll be interesting. Yeah, she's coming into a defensive group who have actually played a fair number of games together over the last season and a
Mhm.
bit now. And it'll just be interesting to see how she integrates back in there because I can't imagine someone who they regard highly enough to make captain at one stage to just be a support act.
Mhm.
But in saying that, she has missed a lot of AFLW football, so it may be a subdued re-entry to the fray, but it may not be, and that'll be great to see her leadership and because while we've spoken about how well we think the defense is going as a young group, it is young, and having that senior leadership may just help calm everything down a little bit more and offer a bit more focus on the ground. So that's exciting. Lauren Young's had huge raps ever since she's been playing SANFLW. I think she won the league best and fairest as a 15 or 16-year-old.
Mhm.
So she's always had big raps on her, and we've been long awaiting her debut. Again, because she has been injured and it's been such a long recovery, it'll be interesting to see A, if she gets picked, which,
Mhm.
like you mentioned, is looking likely, and B, how she integrates because she's a forward. She's at about 178 centimeters. So similar size to Gemma Houghton, and what pieces kind of shift out from there. Unfortunately, while it was great to see another debutant on the weekend against Melbourne, Jazzy Evans probably looks like the last one in, first one out type of deal,
Yeah.
and there may be a harsher call in regards to the back line to bring
Mm.
JC in, which will be interesting because I really don't know who that would be. Um, just looking at the names here, because the only really people that are probably in the firing line are maybe our youngest players in Evans, Gaunt, and Jazzy Sowden.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Alyssa Brooke, and I don't know that someone.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So yeah. Excuse me. Thanks for bringing her back up. Yeah, that
Mm.
may be the tough call that's made because I don't think she's let herself down as such, but
Yeah,
she may
and
be the one.
I think she'd be understanding of that if it was her name that got called. Like the probably as you said, you've said a lot on them in the men's podcast this year when fans would sometimes complain about players being dropped. It's like the coaches and these discussions are had quite regularly about where you are in the side and what your place is, and sometimes I mean, maybe players have disagreements occasionally with, but a lot of the time it's probably hard to argue cases for players of seniority coming back in, and Alyssa Brooks' career is certainly young as well. So yeah, it's going to be an
To
interesting
be,
squad
mm,
show when we come to it on Thursday, I think.
yeah, because it's going to be an interesting test, a good test for us playing someone in a similar spot, and that has a couple of bona fide stars in their team.
Mm.
Most importantly, Georgie Prasparkas, who's
Yeah.
I believe second in the coaches awards leaderboard at the moment, and averaging averaging just under 29 disposals herself.
Yeah.
So well assisted by a couple of others, but we'll obviously get into that when we jump on to record on Thursday night.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, get around squad shows on Thursdays as well. We enjoy them. They're obviously on the main feed, but if you want to hear us gab about other subjects, like last week on the Patreon exclusive episode, which was the squad show plus a little bit of chat on the back end, we talked about the impending arrivals of the likes of Jacob Ware and Will Brodie. So some of the men's news on the back end of the squad show last week for the Patreon subscribers. But of course, if you're just listening on the main feed, you certainly get the squad show each week for the women as well. Just wanted to finish off. You touched on it at the start, but we should just for a little bit of 5 or so minutes for the people listening. Acknowledge it. It was a generational hate watch on Friday night.
It was the hate watch to feed all hate watchers.
And the content since has just kept on keeping on that
Oh,
dopamine.
oh.
Like I am just like fucking, just tying off the arm and just injecting it, just like fucking. Let's go.
Oh yes, come with us, listeners and viewers on YouTube. What a delight it is to be in our neck of the woods. It's probably the best situation we could have asked for, having not played finals.
Mhm.
All of a sudden, certain other clubs are generating records that they wish they didn't have either, and all the
Mm.
while, like you said, the content. Considering it was on a Friday night, we've just had so many days to soak it up, and it is petty, and it is, I don't know, it's a bit sad, but it's not. I don't know. I don't give a fuck. That's what a rivalry is all about, and I'm sure we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
It couldn't have happened to a nicer bunch of blokes, um, tongue firmly in cheek. That yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think Dave Lloyd said it on Twitter at one point in the last few weeks, friend of the pod, along the lines of, I'm paraphrasing, and it's a thought that I'd had similarly in the wake of the Rankin stuff, was like, this was a club that I actually, privately, begrudgingly had acknowledged that had done a fairly good job of just seeming like a rebuilt club as far as image and stuff goes, and they kind of burnt that down in the wake of the Rankin stuff, which just put every like you had like social media was full of fans like fans that as popular fans of other clubs just relishing in the Crows losing on Friday night, and they didn't have the
Yeah,
state.
not even just Port supporters. It
Oh,
crossed
that's
the
what I mean.
boundary of
Yeah,
rivalry.
yeah,
Yeah. And spread throughout the AFL
yeah.
landscape.
Like I just one that I know, like that Polly Porridge, who is part of the True Bloods podcast, like just posted like a
Yeah.
video of just
Sydney
her
fan.
just like a like how good is karma kind of like post, and that's a Sydney fan that I've net like there's just so many fans around the landscape that have really never shown any animosity towards the Crows because they've just like the Crows are just a safe club usually, but they've just like suddenly been like, no, they're like seeing what we've kind of seen under the surface of all the stuff out of the camp and whatever. Like,
Oh yeah.
just
Oh
the stuff that
yeah.
we've. And I don't want to beat down on the Crows fans that I know that are good fans and who are also disappointed in how the Crows have handled themselves. But the Crow, this was really like consequences. Like how was I to know that my actions would have consequences? Stuff from the Crows last month, like the fact that they defended
Consequences of my own actions.
yeah, yeah. It's just ridiculous. But then, yeah, just the fact that for them to back, like, I was so disappointed in how they handled all that. But I was like, maybe it won't have any bearing on that. And I think you can separate what happened to them in finals as somewhat partly the fact they just didn't handle finals pressure well. But a Rankin certainly would have helped them. But yeah, just even separating all of that, it was just such pure bliss watching them just absolutely fall apart under the kind of Friday night lights of finals
Yeah.
football. Like they just felt a bit. The cane corns receipts stuff is just delicious. Like it's just like
The salty tears. Just
because
delicious, Scott.
yeah, because the funny thing about that is like that was just a criticism, an observance he had, and because fans do gravitate to anything that Kane Corn says as just like that's baity and clickbaity, and he has no idea. It's just like, but he did just say, look, I just have concerns about how this will handle because out of the other side of the mouth, a lot of football fans will go, yeah, no, finals is a lot of small forward stuff. Like fans know this.
Yeah.
Finals are like Bobby Hill's a Norm Smith medalist, like Rioli, Gavin Wanganeen for us in '04. Like there's a lot of small forward, like Warren Treadway kicked like 2 goals in the entire 2004 finals series of his 82 for the year. Like you don't win finals by big key forward performance. Bailey Fritsch kicking 6 in fucking 2021. Like, it's not big hulking key forwards game.
Yeah, and I mean, like, there'll be a monolith that puts their name in lights in some regards as well. Like, I remember Tom Hawkins having a fantastic finals. Well, his breakout
2011
performances were in finals.
Yeah.
It's not to say that, a key forward can, but...
Yeah, it's not binary, but there is data.
And here we are, professionals breaking down, like the Crows lost in humiliating fashion. But the best analogy that it's just popped into my mind, and which it goes along the lines that you were talking about, silently acknowledging the work that they had done. It's as if they've built this fantastic architectural spectre of a house, but then they've left the gas on and someone's lit a match and it's all just gone up in smoke. As you mentioned, with the Isaac Rankin, because their wheels were kind of shuddering the last month of football. They kind of fell off a little bit, challenged by West Coast and North Melbourne. But the way that the Isaac Rankin thing happened and the way that they handled it and just the flow on from that, it's as if they've left the gas on in this beautiful house that they've built. And someone's accidentally sparked up and it's burnt it all to the ground. And look, I messaged you, I think it was yesterday, saying that, to paraphrase, I wake up feeling like the world's going to move on from the Crows' loss, and then remember that there's another footy show left to break down their insipid performance.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were kind of like, "What have I missed? What have I missed?" And
I
I
was
was like,
like,
"No, no, no.
feed
It was
me.
just it was the Sunday footy show." But then, yeah, that was Sunday, and then we had AFL 360 last night and a couple of other shows. And
Oh yeah,
look,
then it was Dan does
it's great.
footy doing his like, oh, if you just
Reach out,
reach out to a
yeah,
Crows fan
Crows.
and ha 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 funny. And then kick it forward, posting the montage of fucking everyone giving Rowie.
Five double A.
Yeah.
Yeah, I listened to that. Oh,
Oh,
I'm such a fucking piece of shit. I
oh,
don't
dude.
care.
So as soon as the game finished on Friday night, I immediately opened up my laptop and put the 5AA live feed. And I was listening to the 5AA live whilst also watching the post game. So I had like post
Yeah,
footy
I
and
think there were thousands and thousands of particularly Port Adelaide fans doing exactly the same
Mhm.
thing.
I
And
had a
yeah,
moment where I was like, I feel like calling 5AA, but I was like, no, I'm just gonna let the people that do this for a living do it, and they did a good job. So.
yeah, regulars.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Again, couldn't happen to a better bunch of fuckwits.
Mhm.
And that's rivalry. And, finals, hey,
Yeah.
they're a bit bloody hard to win. And
Mm.
while, you know, granted that we were getting
But
criticism from
but
inside our full,
most sides that play
fandom.
two games in finals at least win a quarter. I'll say that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I said to my old man on the weekend, at least Kenny got us a win in our first final under him
Hmm.
away at the MCG against Collingwood.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, yeah, nothing from a premiership point of view happened from them. But it's not what it's about right now.
yeah.
It's about Schadenfreude and all that encompasses it.
Hmm. Yeah, and look, they're going to be a good side going forward, but they got like a proper kick in the nuts and a reminder that
Litmus test
yeah, I
of the
mean,
highest order.
yeah, they had one of the easiest fixtures of the year, and they rode that to a minor premiership, which is hey, you got to take the advantages you're given, but yeah, they absolutely got kicked in the teeth in the finals, and yeah, very very. Yeah, it was
Great AC/DC song, by the
yeah.
way. Kicked in the teeth.
Mm. I was just thinking, are you going to the concert on this year or?
No,
Yeah, I was
no.
thought about
I
it.
think they should retire
Yeah,
personally, as
I'm
much
kind
as
of.
I love them, but that's a totally
Yeah,
separate
sorry, I was just
conversation.
completely tangented there. Where was I going? Oh yeah, I had I did have a text from um the former player Tom Logan on Friday night, just crows with laughing faces. And I replied and said, "Yeah, I was the biggest Hawkball believer for about 2 hours there." And he was like, "Yeah, same." So rivalries, like it continues through.
Carry on. It carries on post retirement.
Yeah, it does. And yeah, no, I've heard him say to his kids before that there's two swear words in the house, and it's crows and huskies, which is his Oregon side there. But yeah, everyone's been pretty cock a hoop about that performance, and yeah, really really impressed with it. Yeah, it's incredible to watch. Yeah, that was my point. Like, it was such a funny thing to be so anti Hawthorn after our final last year, and how volatile that was. I was riding the emotions of that game. Like every time Gunston kicked a goal, I was doing like a little fist pump, and just like I was invested all the way. And to the point you said about that's rivalry, like, Crows fans would be like, oh, look at you, this is the biggest win for Port Adelaide this year. I'm like, you cunts are walking around in 119 Guernseys. You fucking all turned up for that GWS final a few years ago wearing orange because of that fucking dickhead that's, um, not even a GWS player anymore. And like, he's actually had a good like content about how that journey from transitioning out. But still, they Crows fans have been a part of this Schadenfreude for years now because
Yeah,
that's all they've had.
you
So
cop your wax.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly right. It is all they've had for years, and then when they finally step up to the plate, yeah, the legs get a bit shaky,
Yeah.
clearly, and deficiencies come to the fore.
Hmm. I saw the Adelaide Mail posted a thing like the Crows are offering a new membership package of like,
All
um,
right.
yeah, what was it? Oh, buy two final shot for none. I can't remember. They posted.
Yeah, it was that. But they also had breaking Adelaide Crows fans all of a sudden very quiet about Port's finals record. Which is great. We could prattle on all the memes and the gifs and reactions that we've had, but at the end of the day, it's fantastic because I really could. I mean, Dave and I could probably start a separate podcast to shit on our rivalry across Port Road, our rival across Port Road. But this is about the AFLW side, and I am relishing every day that a footy show says that the AFC Corporation choked on last Friday night. It's the little things in life.
It is. It really, really is, and it's made footy a whole lot more enjoyable for the last since that night too. Enjoyed, I'm going to enjoy the prelims. I don't care who wins the grand final at this point now, and just going to enjoy that and continue enjoying the Port Adelaide AFLW side throughout the season as well. And hey, looking forward to that showdown in a month and a bit's time as well. It's
Absolutely,
5 weeks away now. The AFLW showdown at Norwood. So looking forward to that. Jamie, great episode. Loved reviewing that one with you. A really, really intriguing match to kind of get into the nuts and bolts of, with how we managed to get that win. I think was really, really impressive. Again, just to tie the bow on it, I'm just really, really impressed with the fact that despite the deficiencies in this side, that we managed to utilize that DNA and get the result. It's really, really impressive. And to how I started the episode, it does put us right back into the mix for hoping to sneak into finals again this year.
Absolutely agree. Thanks to everyone consuming our content and sticking with us on the journey with our AFLW side. There's a lot going on in the world at the moment, sport-wise, footy-wise and whatnot. So, we appreciate everyone's contributions and support. Stick with us. Stick with the team. They'll do us proud.
Absolutely. Love you all. Cheers for the support. And... Count the pair. Count the lady pair.